Hey guys, so we finished moving to the new shop and I need to get ready for the first race of the season. It's 3 weeks away, so I have 2 weekends left to work on it, and I'm taking a week off, but I want to get as much of the cockpit set aside and finished as I can ahead of time. One of the problems that I had last season was the steering wheel was a little bit too close to me. It's not really an issue for the most part, but my elbows were really bent a lot, and what you want is about a 90-degree angle on your elbows. I don't have power steering, so I don't want more than a 90 degree. Then I'm trying to twist my arms rather than just pull my arms. So the easiest way for me to do that is get rid of the dish in this steering wheel. So I picked up an NRG, which is a much nicer wheel than I was using. By the way, this is like a $20 eBay wheel, and there is nothing wrong with these. These are perfectly fine. It doesn't have the fit and finish and the quality control that the NRG does, but I mean, you can get 4 or 5 of them for the price of one. I would hands down do that again. But I couldn't find one without dish, so I had to go for the nicer one. And it's pretty much a straightforward swap. This is the quick release that I've been using. This is actually a knockoff of the NRG version, and it's not a particularly good knockoff, as is often the case. The ball bearings that lock it into place aren't very high quality, and I don't know, it has a little bit of play after a year of racing. I guess I can't complain too much, but still, I'll probably end up spending the $200 to get the NRG and the hub adapter. So, first step on this is to get all the accessories off of this wheel so that I can start installing it onto the quick release. I'm not using an electric horn on the steering wheel, so this really isn't necessary at all. This is the part that I need. Now, if you're just getting ready to put your first aftermarket steering wheel on a car, it's kind of confusing. So initially you have a bolt that holds your stock wheel onto some splines. The splines are the gears that are cut toward you. Getting something like this on requires 6 standard bolts around the steering column. And in order to connect the 6 standard bolts to the spline, you need a steering wheel hub adapter. And that's going to be model specific or manufacturer specific. A lot of vehicles share the same steering columns, so they're going to share the same splines, and a lot of steering wheels are interchangeable. But you're going to need an adapter for any kind of standard aftermarket steering wheel. You get 3-bolt or 6-bolt, they're both the same, realistically. If you're torquing hard enough that you break 3 bolts, you're going to break 6 bolts too. You did something really wrong. So I don't have a preference on how many bolts you have. This is just the hub adapter that I already had, and I'm sticking with it. I don't want to set a new standard and buy a new standard. So, in addition to that, a lot of aftermarket steering wheels are going to be a little bit closer to you, and if you're putting in an aftermarket steering wheel, the assumption is that you're also putting in an aftermarket fixed back seat. If you're putting in an aftermarket reclining seat, that's just a comfort thing. Has nothing to do with race cars. The problem is, once you put in an aftermarket seat with some side bolsters and potentially shoulder bolsters, you're going to need to remove the steering wheel every time you get in and out. It's tough to pretzel yourself. Even if you're super skinny, doesn't really matter. You still have knees attached to you, and it's going to be really hard to get in and out of the vehicle with a fixed back seat without a removable steering wheel. So that's where quick release comes into play. This quick release happens to be a ball bearing style, which is really easy to remove and really easy to put back on. This is basically a knockoff of the version 1 of NRGs. A lot of them just have a pin that you push, and that's what releases it. It's basically a post that goes through the entire steering column. And those work great too. I find these to be a little bit more user-friendly, especially the version 2.5 with wings, or the version 3 with a whole handle the whole way around it. It's a pretty good design, but the ball bearings wear out, and the faces that the ball bearings go into wear out, so it's not great. I would much rather have something that's directly splined on the steering column, and that requires welding. Ideally, you're welding it precisely in line with the steering column too. And that's not something I wanted to do for the Miata. I probably will for the Datsun. But for now, this should work. Let's go test fit this thing. And because I don't have my seat bolted in yet, this is almost impossible to get in and out. But I'll do it anyway for you guys. Okay, wish me luck. That's roughly where I'm going to end up sitting. Yep, that's about right. I have enough room for a helmet here, so I won't be banging my head against this all the time. And to install the quick release, just pull back on the retention ring, push it on, and then it locks into place. And that's about 90 degrees. That feels great. I think with where the seat is, I can reach all the controls. I have room. Steering works well, and I have plenty of room to heel toe. I can definitely reach both. I've never used a D-shaped steering wheel before with a flat bottom, but I'm guessing it'll be about the same as anything else. And this, see if I can show you a little more specifically. Hopefully you can see that the play isn't in the steering wheel here, which is just this plate, and it's not in the hub adapter, which adapts the splined shaft to essentially the quick release, or I could put the steering wheel directly here. The play is inside of the quick release. So that's where all the motion is being introduced. And I don't have a good way to tighten that up. This is my problem with the ball bearing style. This is where you get to fully appreciate my magnificent grace. That was actually pretty good. I'm putting a little bit of, well, apparently red thread locker, because that's all I have, on this, and this might be the coolest applicator I've ever seen. It works kind of like a glue stick, where you squeeze it and it gives a little bit of pressure. Kind of awesome. Kind of really awesome. I don't want to use red. Red is more or less permanent, where blue is a temporary kind of fix. But it's what I've got. In case you don't already know, the best way to get thread locker off once you've added it is to heat it up. That makes what I'm doing a really bad idea, because heating up the steering column is kind of a challenge without melting the steering wheel. Alright, and that is a completed steering wheel sandwich. If you have any questions about this system or any other quick release system or aftermarket steering wheel, feel free to drop those in the comments below. As long as it's a system that I'm familiar with, I'll be happy to answer any questions. In the next few weeks, we should have a lot of Miata content coming up, because we're getting ready for the first race event. We have 2 weekends left to go before we have to show up to that race, and then after that, we should be able to get back to the Datsun. As always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye, guys.